You are watching the Mid-Table and Up podcast highlights. Please put your foot through that like button and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, as well as Spotify and the podcasts app.
West Ham 0, Burnley 3 game.
Mate.
With the fan invasion.
Mate, that's my number 10.
God, I thought we weren't going to have matching ones.
I have got two West Ham defeats on here, and that is one of them. But yeah, go on, mate. I'll elaborate and I'll chip in.
So, obviously, for those who don't know, essentially, we were going through an incredibly rough patch of a season. We'd just moved to the new stadium, which was an absolute catastrophe from both
on and off the pitch, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, everyone could have lived with the move if we were playing really good football. We were, the owners were reinvesting back into the club. Yeah. But that wasn't happening, and it was very clear by this point that it wasn't happening. And if I remember, was there a protest before the game?
There was supposed to be.
That was it. Yeah.
In the backdrop to that game, we'd left Upton Park in 2016, 2 years prior, and it was sold to us on the basis of, world class team, world class stadium, and then it turned into a nightmare, rather ironically.
Yeah, we lost our soul, and what for?
Well, probably a lot of fans of, say, especially bigger clubs and other clubs in general are going to kind of go, oh, you're West Ham, like, what do you really expect? And the thing is, we don't mind being shit because we've pretty much been shit our whole lives.
We're very used to it.
Yeah, exactly. But when I don't know, you've got to have an element of realism. And we didn't expect to go there and then 5 minutes later be challenging for Champions League. No, but when you are sold on the basis of world-class team, world-class stadium. This is, we want to be getting Champions League football eventually, within 10 years. We want to be competing for, like FA Cups and stuff like that. When that is what the basis of the move is on. And then the investment in the players flat out isn't right. Whether it's because they're not spending enough money at certain points, or whether because the recruitment is just plain awful in terms that they've got no strategy. It's probably a combination of two at various points, because we might go a summer where we probably don't, or maybe a few windows where we don't spend the money that we need to.
It happens in every football club, and not every football club. There's very few football clubs, aside the very big financial powerhouses in the league. There's very few football clubs that can spend big every window, but we have consistently and hey, I think we could make Simon kill himself if we made this into a GSB Out podcast. Yes. So I want to be really careful. But
I've had enough pub chats where that is the only focus. Can I offer my opinion as an outsider?
Yeah.
It felt a little bit like an overreaction.
Yeah,
a little bit. I agree the move to Stratford didn't go well, but you were still a Premier League side. Like, let's be under no illusion. I know you were pitched this big dream, but every board pitches big dreams to their fans. What is a football fan if you can't dream big? That's pointless.
Yeah.
You should stop following the team if you're not going to dream. It's hard, as I say, as an outsider. I look at it and go, I think, not that it's... And you're talking about bigger clubs looking at you saying, well, what more do you expect? I'm kind of thinking... You're in a pretty good spot, and I don't think you realise that when you're in the bubble.
I think so.
You're in the top division. You're financially secure.
Obviously, looking back at the time, we're playing Burnley, who...
And I get the results bad, and I get the results
and it's not Burnley of today, it's Burnley of 2 or 3 years ago, who were a relegation rival at the time. And we were seriously looking relegation in the face. And... the thing that was so heartbreaking, and I think that probably the difference between when I'll go back to the stadium, it's a bit weird because I haven't been back to football in a while, but the difference between when I'll go back to the stadium and when, you guys, or when this was happening, is that we'd just a lot of people saw it as we'd just lost our soul. And
I can see that too.
And I think people were more upset about that. People have been through the relegation. I think it was actually more to do with the handling of the move than it was about the football.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I think we could have got relegated at Upton Park and people would have been fine
Well,
with it.
we
I
did
don't
get
think you'd have had
relegated
that
quite
reaction.
often at Upton Park, and people were largely fine with it. I would say the thing.
I agree with Simon though. It's very nice to say we're still in the Prem, luckily.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. We're not Bury.
I think that's the point. Like, looking at it from the outside,
I think the thing with this particular incident was that, as Matt alluded to earlier, there was supposed to be a protest march in the way that it's run. And I, to be fair, and I know some people might agree with me on this, but I have said publicly, or not publicly, I've said to you guys before, I would rather probably have been relegated and still been at Upton Park than to be in the London Stadium, because that's just how little I like it there. But there was supposed to be a protest march before that by a West Ham fan group. Yeah, and I'm not gonna name the group, but because I don't even think it exists anymore. But yeah, they basically just they I don't want to say bottled it, but they let everyone down in the sense that they were asking for donations from people, so people had coughed up money towards, like things like like protest banners and whatever else you would need and stuff like that. And the club obviously got so worried about this protest that was supposed to take place on the Burnley game that about a week or so before the game, they invited the heads of this supporters group to the club to chat, and then once the chat was over, the supporters group have come out and then said, oh, we're cancelling the march now. And obviously people were not only like, we still want to march, but also some people were like, well, we put money into this, and where's that going to go now? So yeah, tensions were really high. And
can I just ask a quick question? Do you condone what the individuals did on the day?
Are we talking about the pitch invasions or the protest out next to
the pitch invasion and all of that went with it, that got the fine and got the rest of it? I just want to get your view of, was it justified? And
I don't condone it, but I think in some ways it was necessary, because that summer, and I know kind of in hindsight this hasn't really worked out now, but that summer they went out and spent big money to get Pellegrini in, and they went out and got big players for him. I think at that point he was the third highest paid manager in the Premier League, and I feel like that was off the back of that reaction. I think if the fans had probably been a bit meager, I'm not saying it's 100% down to that pitch invasion, and I'm not saying that everything that happened on that day was the right thing to happen, because in some respects it is embarrassing, for sure. But I feel like even to this day, I feel like we're still kind of feeling the ramifications of that game to a certain degree. And obviously at the minute, it's still kind of an ongoing issue. On the day of this recording, we've currently sold Sebastian Haller and Robert Snodgrass. And as far as we're aware, there's no replacement for either of those players. And again, it's kind of the same old thing all over and over again. And I bet, to be honest, at least from a personal perspective, the board owners are probably happy there aren't fans there now, because especially with the sale of Dean Garner in the summer, again, it just that they're alleviated of all that what would be potential negativity. Because even though we're having a really good season, I feel all the credit really has to go to Moyes and the team. I feel like the board are kind of lucky that Moyes has worked. It's not because they're operating the football club the way that it should be operated. So
George, let me ask you a question. If they lead on the team and they stick to the words that they said that they've touted us for years, and they get us to, let's say, because this to me is success in my next 10, 15 years of supporting West Ham, they get us to an FA Cup final, or they get us to they get us to finishing in Europa League points, because that to me is success. Would you think differently, or as that the ownership just completely wrote themselves off to you?
the ownership would have to operate completely different to how they're operating now in order to achieve those things. As I said, I'm really happy that we're in as a club. This has been a really great start to us. It's been one of the most positive starts. Well, we'll say we're nearly halfway through the season now, and it's certainly. I know we finished 10th under that first year with Pellegrini, but this season looks like it could pan out to be our best season at the London Stadium, and I'm really happy about that. But I just think long term, we're always going to be kind of flip-flopping between mid-table to relegation candidate at best as well, as long as these owners are there. And I think that because the way they operate the club, as I said, we could have a good year this year. We might even have a good year next year. But I feel like it's only a matter of time before we're in and around the relegation zone again. And then it will only be a matter of time before we potentially get relegated. Because we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
We had a great season that last year at Upton Park. That season was an outlier. This season could also be an outlier. That's the issue. And as I said, I'm not expecting us to compete for titles and stuff. That's not going to happen. But when you look at the kind of strides that clubs like Wolves, Leicester, even Southampton have made, and I know that at the minute we're above Wolves in the table at the time of recording, but as a club, they look so much more whole and like they've got a long-term plan in place. Whereas at the moment, our top scout is Souček. That's the final whistle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Mid-Table and Up podcast. If you enjoy our top 10 lists, please make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Let us know what you would have done differently. If you watch this episode on YouTube, make sure to put your foot through that subscribe button and leave a like on the video, as well as follow us on Spotify, the podcast app, to keep up to date with the series. Thank you very much. See you next time.